you're doing the heptathlon, 7 events.
Yeah.
How on earth do you embrace, in all of athletics, a multi-event? Where did all that start?
I suppose like if I bring it back, I started into athletics when I was like 7 or 8 years old. My parents, I remember like the day that my parents brought me across the road because one of our neighbours was actually running the local athletics club at the time. And I can't remember if I really wanted to join it or whether they just decided that they were going to put me into athletics club. But I remember standing outside her front door, and I'd never watched athletics at that point or knew anybody that did athletics. And the way that I distinctly remember the way I pictured races being was swim lanes. So you know those like things, those like things that go along like the distinguished lanes in a swimming pool. I imagined running up and down that, and imagining me winning races. Literally standing outside my neighbour's front door as my parents were speaking to her about me joining the athletics club. But anyway, it started in, and I just was doing a bit of everything like at that point. And as I got a little bit older, I started doing the long jump, javelin, and the 800 meters, with the 800 meters like being my main event. And I was training away with those couple of events. I actually had a coach, so I was based in Newry at that time, training at St. Coleman's running track. And I had a coach called Cookie. He was taking my 800 meter stuff, and then my dad was doing my javelin and my long jump. So I was doing those 3 events. That was great. And I would go to national champs doing those 3 events. And I think that probably at that point, I know at that point I didn't know what multi-events was. I wasn't in any way, shape or form aiming to be a multi-eventer, but that probably set the foundations for me to have a love for multiple events and my brain working hard at training and at competition to swap from one thing to the next. And I loved turning up to training. I suppose I loved turning up to training and coming an hour early and doing an event and then joining in with the group and doing, say, the running session, and then afterwards maybe doing a bit of throws with my dad afterwards. And I could never have imagined myself just turning up and doing just the one thing. I loved doing a bit of everything at training.
What age and stage in school were you then?
So at that point, whenever I was doing those events, I would have been probably started with Cookie, I would say around 11. And that went on until I was probably 13 or 14. I would say, yeah, roughly. Like that was 800 meters, long jump and javelin. They were my 3 kind of events from that kind of age group. And there was some really great girls in that 800 meter group. There was a girl called Ashton Crossy, who at the time had run 2:03 in the 800 meters.
Quick.
Yeah, really quick. And she at that time she was probably 14 or 15, so she was young, running really, really quick. And I would be dogging around the track after her, trying my best, and my dad would be giving me pep talks beforehand, like telling me, like, don't jump up the back of her.
I mean, that's rapid. And for that age, that's really quick.
Yeah, no, she was great. She was really good. And I think having girls that were great around me from such a young age was something that was always pushing me on. I was never the best at anything that I did. And as well, my birthday is December, so it's a late birthday, which meant that I was always competing against girls that were a year older than me, just the way that the age groups fell. So I think that without realizing it, I've always had to up my game because I've always had to push myself.
I'm always chasing.
Yeah, always chasing. And my dad definitely developed my competitiveness by telling me that I was good enough to put myself up against these kind of girls. Even whenever I didn't believe in myself, he was always the person that was telling me that you can.
So you're doing those 3 events.
Yeah.
Was there one that you had more of a draw to than the other 2 at that stage?
The 800 meters would have been the main event. Like, as sad as it is, like if I went to national champs and didn't win the 800 meters, but I won the long jump with the javelin, it would have been a bad day at the office. Like, It would have been coming home. Like, I could sense probably a little bit of disappointment from myself and my dad, who was also like there, and my coach Cookie, because they expected a lot of me. And at that time, yeah, the 800 meters was the main one. I was kind of doing the other 2 on the side.
And was it always athletics, or were you pulled across, or did you try any other sports during that time?
Oh yeah, I did everything. So like I started Irish dancing when I was like 3, like really, really young. My
Okay.
parents put me into Irish dancing. I played tennis, I swam, I played the tin whistle, I played the flute. I was very good at the flute. I went on to grade 5 in the flute. I only had one more grade and I don't know why I stopped. I felt like it wasn't cool.
It's Galler and Dust.
Which it
It's at home Galler and Dust now, is it?
oh, it is, yeah.
It's there to be taken off the shelf. So
I know, I know. I really should finish that off. But no, I did. I tried my hand at everything. And I was pretty good, like across the board. Sport in general, I was always quite good at applying myself to the different sports and being like pretty
So
decent.
were you one of those really annoying people in secondary school that's just
Oh yeah,
winning things all the time,
oh,
and
completely. And in primary
peers
school,
turn their hair out like, and she's a musician as well.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
completely. And like in primary school, I remember we used to do swimming lessons, and they'd bring us to the local pool like once a week or whatever it was. And at the end, was a complete like competitive animal, and I used to me and the boys used to at the end of the session we would race, and there was one of the boys in the school that was a really good swimmer, and maybe he was like, I don't know, I think he was winning medals and stuff. And I remember everyone really wanting us to race all the time, and every week I would be up for it, like to dive in the pool against him. And I always tried my 100% best to be the best at everything that I put myself forward to do. And I definitely did beat him a couple of times. He beat me too, but yeah, I loved trying to be the best at everything
So
I did.
we're going to hear more about the amazing year you've had
Mm.
in world athletics,
Yeah.
but this drive to compete, what's your sense of where that really came from? To want to beat that boy in the pool, or be good at multi sports? And
I don't know. Like, I think that before I would have said it was my dad. My dad is really competitive and he fed that into me. But if I speak to my parents, like they were both saying my mom, like from when my mom and dad met, my dad would have always said my mom was extremely competitive to the point where if she wasn't good at something, she wasn't going to do it. So I think that probably both my parents are really competitive, and I've pulled it from both of them. And then from a young age, I think whenever you get a taste at being good at something and maybe winning medals, it can be addictive. And then I suppose with athletics, I was pretty good at it and I started winning medals, and then you don't want that to go away. And I think that that's like this year, winning all the medals that I did. I said in a few interviews before, I was like, oh, now that I've won medals, I don't want that to stop. I don't want that to go away. And I probably for years, so whenever I was younger, winning national medals and that sort of thing, that was great. And if I didn't win that, I'd be really disappointed with myself. And then whenever I came into the senior ranks and I was going to European champs and world champs and not winning medals, I kind of probably was making excuses for myself at that time, being like, you're competing against the top girls in the world, and like maybe you're not going to win medals, and maybe that's just okay. But then this year, or after the Olympics, I turned this corner of like, I made the Olympics. That was a lifetime, like a lifelong dream. I really, really wanted to do that. And I enjoyed every second of being at the games, but I left with this sense of like, you deserve and are capable of more than what you did there. And I, like, without realizing it, I had chats with myself and like a little bit of self-reflection. And I decided that I was going to make the changes that I needed to make and stick to them and actually properly try. Like I probably gave 90% of myself to the sport, but this year I decided I was going to give 100%, and I won my first medal. And whenever I did that, I had this realization of like, hold on a second. You used to win medals as a kid and you wouldn't let yourself away with not winning a medal. So why have you been doing that for the last however many years? And I think then just since then, like I go into competitions and I've expected myself to win a medal, and I'm not saying that's always going to keep happening. They're very difficult to win, but I train now to win medals. I don't train just to train. I'm training because I know that I'm capable and good enough to win.
And the Paris Olympics were a pivotal point for that.
Really.
Okay,
Yeah.
that conversation that's inside yourself first before you go to other people with it.
Yeah.
It's a tough conversation, is it, to have? Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I think it took me a little while afterwards to kind of, it is and it isn't. Like afterwards you're told like post-Olympics you're going to have post-Olympic blues, and it's going to be all like you've worked so hard and you've reached the pinnacle of your sport and you've done everything that you set out to do. But for me, it was so different. Like I finished and I enjoyed every second of the games. And I was kind of then for a while waiting for like this come down. But I think the difference was that like the come down didn't happen because I didn't reach the pinnacle of what I thought that
You took energy out of it.
Yeah. I found this new door that I was like, hold on a second. You've made the pinnacle of your sport, but you've not reached the pinnacle of your career yet. And I think that you can do or I thought I could do so much more in the sport. So I took steps forward rather than kind of sitting and wallowing in like, oh, I can't believe that that's all over.
I guess a lot of people who go to the Olympics would have been told, oh, it's amazing you're an Olympian and you're going to get rightly, a lot of recognition for that. Doesn't sound like that was something you accepted as the ultimate accolade, is to be told, well done, you went to the Olympics, you've done well to get there.
Yeah. No.
Do you think it's something in Irish sport in particular that people would say that's the resting point? You did well to make it, then that's good enough.
Yeah. I suppose like it can be hard because I think that like sometimes an athlete can like understand and recognize like I've done very well to make it here, and like I've this is
my best.
This is my best.
Okay.
And I do think that athletes can recognize that, and I think that like, but at the same time you do have to have a sense of delusion and a sense of like an extreme sense of belief, because if you don't believe in yourself that you're going to do something or you're capable of doing something, it's just never going to happen. But yeah, I don't know. I know I can only speak for myself and say that like, yeah, I always knew that like making the Olympics was never something for me that was going to be like the it factor and me finished and happy with my career. I always knew that I wanted to win medals and that I was good enough.
Yeah. An extreme sense of belief.
Yeah.
Recently I heard someone describe the difference between belief and confidence as they understood it, and they said confidence goes up and down with results, but they said belief is, they used the phrase existential. It's more a spiritual thing. It's a deeper thing.
Yeah.
Goes beyond results.
Yeah.
What's the source of that for you?
Like if I think for myself and into like belief and where it comes out, like somewhere is, or an event that like it really comes out for me is the high jump. Like it can be such a mind. Oh, it's a really tough event to get right, and it's tough to train for, but it's also really tough to, when you are seeing these heights in front of huge crowds, being able to compose yourself and get up and over them. And something that I realized that really works for me is visualizing myself clearing these certain heights and ultimately fully believing that I can do it. And I think that at World Champs, I had envisioned myself getting over 86 over and over and over and over again. And I knew I could do it. I'd convinced myself that I could do it. And I fully believed that I could do it. And I knocked it on the first attempt, and I knocked it on the second attempt. And on the third attempt, I was able to kind of, the only way I can describe it is I found like a complete sense of calm. And I just remember telling myself, bring it back to what you do every single day. You've seen yourself do this. Do what you do day in and day out at training and forget everything else. And I just went into this kind of like, into this state of putting one foot in front of the other and doing exactly what I know how to do. And I think, yeah, it was down to belief that got me up and over that. But it's difficult to describe to someone or to tell someone how to be better, believe in yourself. Okay. I don't really know how to put that into words. I think that like, again, there's a lot of factors that come into it, like my competitiveness, and I think I've always had a lot of self-belief. I've always had very high expectations of myself. But yeah, I don't know.
You mentioned your mum and dad earlier, and we've asked you to bring a few things along, and I think one of them is a picture of your mum and dad.
Yeah, get it up.
Tell us, because some people will be listening to that.
Yeah.
So can you describe what you see in the photograph, and then tell us a bit about your parents.
Yeah, so this is my mom and dad. So this is just actually before an awards night that we were at recently. And it's so nice that like I can bring them along with me to these sort of things, because my dad is obviously there day in, day out. He's my head coach. He looks after so many different aspects of the whole thing for me. And it's a really special relationship that we have. It's not many father-daughters get to travel the world, get to see each other as often and work so closely together. So yeah, that's obviously lovely that we get to do that. Comes with its ups and downs though. Last year was a pretty easy year because everything went so well. It's very easy to gloss over then some of the things whenever times are a little tough. How that relationship can definitely be rocky, but there are so many positives to working with him. And it's rare that you have someone that's 100% on your side, especially in sport. And it's nice to know that he 100% has my back and every decision is in my best interests. And then my mom.
And your dad's Michael?
Michael, yeah.
And then your mum?
My mom, she's great. And like, I think that probably I didn't realize until the last year or two how much sacrifice she makes as well. Like, it's very easy to look at my dad and how much time and effort he puts in, and because he's beside me and I know that like the commitment and the effort level that it takes. But my mom makes so many sacrifices too. Like, she's not got her husband there a lot of the time. When we go to competitions, she either goes alone or she doesn't go, because again, she doesn't have him or my siblings go with her. And yeah, like, she's got a husband that is here, there and everywhere, and she has to man the house and she has to look after my brother and sister. And even as I was growing up and my dad was bringing me here, there and everywhere, he was bringing my brother too, but my mom had to stay behind and look after my little sister. And she has always been nothing but supportive. I'm sure that at times she was thinking, when is this coming out?
What do you call your mum?
My mum's Valerie.
And are Valerie and Michael, are they from County Louth or did they grow up somewhere else in Ireland?
So my dad is from Dundalk and my mom is from Ballymena.
Oh.
Yeah. So they met at university in Newcastle. I couldn't tell you the year. I have no idea.
So two people from Ireland go to England to fall in love.
Yeah. And then came back. My mom was actually, there's some sort of timeline where my mom's from Ballymena and then she lived in Scotland for a while with her family, and then she went to university. My granny and grand are now still in Ballymena. But yeah, my parents are living in Dundalk.
And tell us about your brother and sister.
My brother and sister. So Rory is a quantity surveyor. He does all my running sessions with me at the weekends. He drags me around the track. We kind of started that like partnership over COVID. Well, A, because we both couldn't do anything else, but B, he like kind of, that was his kind of time where he picked up on fitness. He actually used to play rugby, but he had a tumour on his back when he was younger and ended up having to have an operation, which stopped him from being able to do that. So he had to kind of then, he was a very good rugby player and could have probably been pretty great, but had to then rearrange what he wanted to do, and couldn't do contact sport. But anyway, he filtered in over COVID, did all my running sessions with me, and we got like super fit together. And to be fair to him, like, he makes time every weekend to come and train with me.
Who's pacing who in those sessions?
It's actually, so it used to be him dragging me around the track. I would say some sessions he's still better than me at, but some sessions I'm better than him at. Yeah. So it's great. It's good for the both of us. He actually ran his first marathon last year. So he's got his like other side quests that go on, but he's been invaluable to have, because those sessions, it's tough to find a training partner that's reliable, and that you can do really sickening sessions.
And who will do your session?
Will do my session. And it's so true, like, because not many people want to just be a training partner. A lot of people, obviously, as you would be, are in it for himself. Rory doesn't compete. He doesn't want to compete. He tried that out, and he just didn't like the nerves, but he loves being fit. So it's a perfect fit. And yeah, it's nice that like we get to spend a couple of hours every weekend together, because either we don't see each other during the week because he's in Dublin and I'm in Belfast. So that's Rory. And then My sister Maeve, she is 18 and she's just started university with Ulster. And she is also training to be a heptathlete. She's had a few injuries as of late, but she has a lot of great potential. And I suppose it's nice for her because she can she follows along with my program and like filters in. But yeah, she's a lot more sociable than me. She loves going out and hanging out with friends and stuff, and she's got like a pretty cool life. She's got a good balance going on. So, yeah, I'm excited for her to now kind of see how she develops over the next few years. And yeah, maybe we could both be.
What's her next target competitively then at 18?
I suppose she's got, is it World or European Juniors next summer?
Okay. Okay.
So
it's serious stuff.
Yeah, so it'll be those sort of things.
You said she's more sociable than you.
Yeah.
Is that a little kind of indication of solitariness or the loneliness of your endeavour?
Oh, completely. Like, I find that, like, so I went to university in Sheffield for my undergrad, and that was great for like the 4 or 5 months that I was there. We had to come back because of COVID. But what I found straight away whenever I started university was that I couldn't do the same things that my friends were doing in my course. But what was great was I trained with a couple of heptathletes. So we did a lot of stuff together that didn't involve going out and drinking. And we also were on the same schedules. So we could do things together depending on training days, etc. Then COVID happened and I came home and everyone went through COVID. It was pretty rubbish for everybody. But then I started training here at Jordanstown, and it was just predominantly me on the track. Especially last year, even if we just talk about last year, it was me on the track and my dad and my other coach Tom on the track pretty much every day. My physio Kerry and Robbie were the people that I seen like day in and day out. And at one stage, like I was calling them my friends, and they like I would consider them friends. We talk about things that I would talk to my friends about. It's just that they're maybe like 30 years older than me.
Yeah, not your peers.
Which is like which was like a kind of. At times it was completely fine, but at times maybe not so fine. And I actually think it was probably 2 years ago, maybe. I actually spoke to Gary, because I was just having like these. This
is Gary Longwell.
Yeah, Gary Longwell. Yeah. And I had a chat with him because I kind of felt like I had lost the sense of Kate the person. I was Kate the athlete, but I had lost that kind of like socialness outside of sport. And I had a great friend group, great friend group from secondary school that I'm still friends with today. And we were friends from first year right the way till 6th year. And I felt like 2 years ago I just let that slip. I had a really bad injury and I threw myself completely into the rehab, and I was trying to qualify for the Olympics, and it came to the stage where I had let that part of my life go so far that I almost felt like I couldn't text any of the girls on the weekend and be like, do you want to meet up? And that started to like really start like affect me, and especially whenever you're injured and you maybe have a little bit more time. I just was like, oh my gosh, like I don't really have anything outside of sport. And my boyfriend, he is living in England, so we were doing long distance, so it's not even like I had him. So me and Gary had a conversation, and I started putting effort back in with my friends, and every weekend I would make the effort to meet up with my friends, even though I was be wrecked tired after my sessions, and it took a lot of like willpower to do it. I made the effort. I started making the effort, and over time I felt like I gained all those connections back. I worked really hard on that, and last year every weekend I continued meeting up with the girls, and I just felt like I had a great balance of Kate the athlete and Kate the social.
Kate the person.
Yeah.
It sounds like that was trying to reclaim part of your identity that had, you hadn't been able to spend time on when you were pursuing your career. So who is Kate the person? What is she like?
I like meeting up with my friends and just yapping about rubbish.
Yeah.
Like I love just like, I love not talking about athletics or sport whenever I'm like socializing with people. I like to forget that I'm pretty good at like parking sport at the track and just leaving. And it starts to annoy me if people are wanting to talk about sport the whole time, because I'm like, oh, I live this day in, day out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love to just talk about nothing, like normal stuff that my friends are maybe going through. I love like almost living through them and hearing what a normal job is like and all their meetings that they have, and all that kind of sort like kind of stuff.
What's a good night out with your friends? What would you be
Um,
doing?
I My ideal is going out for some nice food. And if we are having a couple of drinks, having a couple of drinks. I'm not a big like go on a night out, like
Mm.
go mad. I hate waking up the next morning, A, feeling sick, and B, just feeling really tired and rubbish. But for me, yeah, it's going out for a nice meal and just spending time with my friends and chatting and just catching up. I'm such a foodie. I love eating good food. I love trying new restaurants. Um, so yeah, if someone put in a good suggestion of like somewhere good to eat, I would
You're
direct there.
checking it.
Yeah.
If you're not with your friends and you're away from the track and you're on your own, what are the things that you would do then to create that space between you and your sporting environment?
Mm.
Do you go for walks in the forest or read poetry, or what are the sort of give us a sense of some of the things that you like to do when you're on your own and
Yeah.
you have time available?
Yeah, I'm really boring. I like after I finish training and I come back, I I come home, I make my dinner. I'm a big YouTube watcher. I like to just put on like a random video, like a brain numbing video, and I'll just like watch like random stuff. Um, or like at movies, I like to put on just rubbish movies that like I can be watching the movie, but I could also be doing something else at the same time. I don't have to be sitting and actually concentrating. Um, like I said, my boyfriend's like away. We do long distance, so we like I'm normally speaking to him. But no, I'm not a big like I don't go out on nature walks. I don't really read books.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
Mm.
But no, reading a book is actually something that's on my bucket list. Like
Yeah.
I used to be a great reader whenever I was a kid. My mom, like I used to love books, and then phones come along and it's the cooler thing to be on your phone.
So
And I just lost.
so this volume of the 100 greatest Irish poems ever I brought with you to give to you I knew I got it
Well,
wrong.
maybe it'll be the one.
A terrible choice. Um, you brought some very spectacular looking medals with you,
Yes.
Kate. Talk us through them in whatever sequence makes sense to you. It doesn't have to be the chronology. It might be.
Yeah.
So would you? And if you pick each one up so that the camera can pick it up, and just
Yeah.
give us the story and the meaning behind each medal for you on a personal level.
Okay. So this is the European bronze medal. This is the first medal that I won this year. And probably I sometimes feel bad whenever I say this, but it probably is my favorite medal that I won. Because it was my first one. And I've been to so many indoor championships and not won a medal and not even come close. I wouldn't have considered myself a pentathlete at all before this year. I was always much better at heptathlon. But I had to work so hard for this medal. I started off with the hurdles. I ran a PB and that was great, and then came to the high jump and it was pretty rocky. I almost fell out at 175, which is practically an opening height for me. But I managed to push on, and like we were talking about earlier, the whole self-belief thing, I think that was probably a pivotal moment for me, figuring out how to navigate through times of like extreme stress and bringing it back to not doing what you can do. So anyway, I progressed through that. I jumped great, a big PB. Then we moved on to the shot put, where I threw a pretty solid throw. And then it was on to the long jump, which for years the long jump has been the event that's just killed me. Like I've always been like a half okay, like a solid long jumper, but my long jump was one of the events that I had to fix if I wanted to win medals. And we spent so much time working on long jump. I actually had a coach called Peter Stanley. Just before the Olympics, he came in and was doing so much work with us. He probably is one of the biggest reasons like why we made so many changes to me as an athlete and the structure of my training. Unfortunately, he died of cancer then just after the Olympics, which was really like shocking and sad. But I sometimes actually think whenever I'm thinking about him, he's like a little angel on my shoulder that like is like telling me what to do and telling me what positions to put my body in, because really since he came in and had an input into our training, um everything's changed, not just me but the coaches. But anyway, it came to the long jump and I jumped a huge PB, like a massive, I can't remember, I think it was 6:27 I jumped, and I was absolutely buzzing when it happened. Like I was completely thrilled. And then the long jump competition ended, and I just like had this extreme wave of sadness because the results came up, where the standings came up, and I was sitting in fourth.
Mm.
And I had like all day been like doing performance after performance that was like world class. Any other year I would have been in the medals easy, and I was just still, I was trailing. And I came out and I seen my dad and Tom in the waiting area, and I just looked at them and they could tell that I was about to cry. I'm a big crier. I'm a very emotional person, and like if I'm not happy with something, you'll know. So I looked at them and they were like, right, we need to get outside. So we went straight outside, and they started like with the pep talks of like, you've done absolutely amazingly. Like you couldn't have done any more, like blah blah blah, because essentially I was trailing 2 seconds behind the British girl, Jade O'Dowda, who I've trained with in Sheffield, and I know that she's a good 800-meter runner, and she's beaten me in quite a few 800s. She beat me at the Commonwealth Games whenever I won the silver, at the 800 meters. But so I knew that like it was going to be a really tough ask, and at that point I thought it was going to be an impossible ask. And my dad and Tom, they recognized that it was going to be a really, really, really tough challenge, and something that like is very possible that I won't be able to do. But at the same time, they still brought me back to, right, you can't control what anybody else can do, and all we can do is create a plan for you. And the plan was to sit behind Jade until 300 meters to go and spring on her and try
So
to.
that's a lap and a half, is it? An indoor?
So there's 4 laps indoors.
Yeah.
So a lap and a half to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the plan is, to spring it on her and take her by surprise, basically. It was kind of the only way that we could see it happen. So I stood on the line at the start of the 800 meters, and I was so nervous. And just before actually I'd gone out, well, maybe about half an hour before I'd gone out, I'd called my boyfriend who was over. He managed to get over to watch, and I was just crying to him. I was like, oh, it's just so annoying. Like I'm sitting in fourth. I'd actually ran through it in my head, like what I was going to say when a camera was shoved in my face, because it's so difficult. Like you're so close to a medal, and I didn't get one. And like, what do you say whenever someone asks you, how do you feel? So I'd kind of gone through the different things that I was thinking, and I was saying this to him, and he was like, everybody that I was speaking to just had like an extreme amount of belief in me. And like, I know that I said before I have a lot of self-belief, but I think that's something that's really nice. Like the people that are closest to me really believe in me too. And maybe at times that I didn't fully believe myself, I got what I needed out of people. So I was standing on the line for the 800 meters, and I was put on the very outside lane, which was kind of a bit weird the way they staggered the whole thing, but actually a blessing in disguise. When we started off the 800, all of us on one tight line, and I found this path that I was able to cut in, and I found myself in second position at the very start of the race. So then I had to make this really quick decision of, do you stay here and follow the girl that I know was a quick 800 meter runner? She had a PB of like 209 or something. Or do I try to start filtering back through the pack to try and find Jade and sit behind her? And I made a decision on the spot that I was not going to do the second option, and I was going to stick with the Italian girl and try to run a PB. And I remember saying to myself in my head, like, do something that you're going to be proud of. So I stuck with her, and with, I think, 250 meters to go, I could feel her starting to slow down, and I decided to strike and just run as fast as I could, basically for the last lap and a bit. And I crossed the line, and I didn't even think to check behind me at that point. I just crossed the line, and I kind of collapsed onto the floor. And I just remember lying with my hands behind my head and looking up at the board and just waiting and waiting and waiting for the times to come up. And I knew it had to be 2 seconds. And it felt like it took forever. Like I felt like it was a year I was lying there for. And I'm not sure where exactly she finished in the pack, but it came up maybe the girl in fifth or whatever was maybe 3 seconds. So I knew at that point that I had won the medal. And I just couldn't believe that, like, under all that pressure, that I was able to find something in myself to go out and just be like so ruthless. I'd never ran like that before. I'd never ran like that before since being a senior. But when I was a younger athlete doing the 800 meters, that was me. Like I was like I was pretty ruthless, and I was able to put my head down and grind it, and I found that in myself again.
Yeah, this is you chasing that young lad up the swimming pool. Yeah.
I found something deep within that, like,
Yeah.
I hadn't come out in a while, and this like extreme want, and something that I knew I'd worked so hard for, and I wasn't going to let it slip away.
Can I say something about that? That for me is better than the video.
Yeah. So is this my thought
That was
process.
an incredible description. It's also interesting how the coaches are said, here's the tactic, and then you go, what tactic? It's but the belief they had in you was a different source, something that sat underneath the tactic, that underpinned it.
Yeah.
Um,
Funny though, actually, you say that about the coaches. My dad and Tom's recollection of events is really funny. Because obviously they were watching, knowing what the plans were, and they said that, like, I was in second position, and they said that they started kind of like looking at each other to be like, what is she doing?
what's going on here?
Yeah. And then like one lap happened and I stayed where I was, and like my dad said that the two of them were sweating because they were like, what is going on here? Like, this is not what we planned. And Jade was there, so they were like, what is she doing?
It's almost reversed.
Yeah,
she's tracking you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the second lap, or around the second lap, and then into the third lap, and then they said that they started to like feel this sort of like excitement in themselves, and they started to like actually also completely believe that what I was doing was the right thing and that I could really do this. And the two of them, this is very funny, that they both screamed so much. They didn't have a voice the next day. The two of them screamed that loudly, and there was a lot of like Netherlands fans around. And my dad said at the start they were kind of getting a bit of dirty looks, but by the end he said the Netherlands fans were almost screaming for me too. Yeah. So yeah, it was funny just hearing that from them and the emotions that they went through watching unfold, because obviously they have no control over it. So it's probably pretty difficult to watch whenever something like that's happening.
Yeah, that was a long moment in the track when you were waiting.
Yeah.
It's clear, I think, why you picked that medal as being so special to you from that story. What tell us about the other medals then? Which one would you go to next?
I'm just going to go in order because it's the easiest way to kind of go through them. So the next one was the world silver medal. And
this is indoors also.
This is indoors, yeah. World indoor silver medal, I should say. And this was in China. It was about 9 days after European champs. And this competition, I've never done a multi-event that close together before. So that was a whole new challenge. I'd never flown that far across the world to compete before. So another whole new challenge. And I also, after most multi-events, I generally, like, my immune system gets such a knock. I pick up some sort of sniffles or some sort of just like, I'm not feeling 100% myself. So I was also going over just not being 100%.
Yeah. And the events are close to each other as well.
Yeah. So I think, I'm pretty sure it was 9 days. It could have even been less.
No.
So we flew over anyway, and I literally didn't train between. Well, I did one warm-up day 2 days before the competition. Just went out and did like a jog, a warm-up, and then went and scouted out the track. But apart from that, we did literally nothing. And I went into the competition, and I was actually kind of not worried, but I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if I had recovered from the last competition. I didn't know if I'd recovered from the jet lag. I didn't know what I was going to do, or if I was going to be able to do it. But what I did know was the European indoor champ, so one of the girls that beat me, she was there, and part of me was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. So we started off warming up for the hurdles, and funny enough, like, as I said, my main thing was, I was saying to the guys, like, I don't know how recovered I am. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to be able to do here. And we're hurdling, and where we're hurdling, it was a warm-up track, so there wasn't the normal spacings out, and hurdles are put on exact spacings, the same spacings, like on every track. And as I was hurdling, I was coming back and I was saying to my dad, I was like, this doesn't feel good. I'm like really working to each hurdle here. I'm like, I'm almost striding. And all the girls are kind of hurdling at the same, people like pull their marks in and out and have different things for their own warm-up. So it's kind of hard to base it off other people. But we were told these markings were on the right spacings. And I'm walking back and I'm like, oh, this is not good. And then after a while, I said to my dad, I was like, is there anyone around here that has measuring tape? But let's just like double check and make sure that these are right, because like I'm slow right now. Anyway, long story short, my dad goes off on his mission to go and find a measuring tape, comes back, measures them, and the spacings were out. Only by half a shoe, but I was able to pick up on it.
Those hitting your rhythm. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So we got to fix them, and I did 1 or 2 runs literally just before we went out, and I was feeling a lot better. I was like, right, no, I'm okay. Like, I can do this. Went out onto the line, and pretty nerve-wracking, because you're not now just standing there as like a random athlete, you're standing there as like a European indoor bronze medalist, and you're being introduced as that too. So I definitely had a little bit more pressure on me, and I started off and I ran really well. I ran a PB in the hurdles, and from that moment I was like, you'll be fine. Let's enjoy this competition, because you've started off so well and you're in a great place. And because I had won that medal previously, I felt this sense of like, I suppose, of belonging, or just, again, like the self-belief was so high and the confidence was so high. I just was able to kind of run through the events. I went through the high jump, really enjoyed it. I jumped pretty well. I threw a huge PB in the shot put. I was really, really happy with that. I jumped another PB in the long jump, and that was class. And then I was standing on the line for the 800 meters, and I was in this like amazing position, which my dad and Tom actually said to me, you'll probably never be in this position again, where I was sitting in the silver, and I think I was sitting in the silver, and the girl in the bronze position would have had to beat me by 2 seconds. And I was a much faster 800 meter runner than her. So essentially I had to finish the race. I didn't have a ton of work to do, and the girl in first, the Finnish girl, was too far ahead. I wasn't going to catch her. So I was able to somewhat enjoy the 800 meter race. It wasn't the same as the European indoors, where I had to like put my life on the line. I was able to kind of go around, and I crossed the line and knew straight away that I had won a world silver medal, which again hadn't been done in so long. So that was class.
What was that feeling like compared to the bronze medal? Just at that moment.
Different, because I knew straight away, there was no suspense. I crossed the line, I knew I had the medal. Where with Europeans, I worked so hard. I crossed the line, I didn't know for a long time. So that was a lot that just happened. I didn't know how to express myself, where like almost as I was coming up to the line at World Indoor Champs, I knew I had the medal in the bag. So I was able to enjoy the moment maybe a lot more with the world silver medal. But the feeling that I had at European indoors was, I haven't had that feeling since. Like, that was,
it sounds like you almost went into like, I don't know, like a different room in your head.
Yeah.
This is where this is the level I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I should be here.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the indoors. Now we've got 2 more medals to go.
Yeah. So then we took a little break after indoor season, which was very much needed, because a whole media storm came along, and a lot of things changed then. And yeah, then we started into our outdoor season with, I suppose, like, no one ever really had spoken about like winning world medals at this stage, but I did an interview at the start of the outdoor season, and I was asked if I thought that I could score or would ever score something along those lines of 6,500. And I remember in my head thinking to myself, obviously, like, I'm like 100%, like, if I don't score 6,500 this year, I'll be really disappointed with myself. Now, I didn't say that at the time because I didn't want to put myself under a ton of pressure, but in my head I was like 100%. Like, my goal at that point at the start of the outdoor season was to score 6,600. I felt like I could do that. And so we went back to training, and training was going really, really well. We went off on camp. And then just before Yeah, no, actually, we had no issues. It was great training up to Europe or to World University Games. And I went over, it was in Germany. And the competition was great. It was ran really, really well. My hurdles, though, it didn't go well at all. It was a pretty bad start. My high jump was solid. My shot put was terrible. My 200, I ran a PB, so that was great. So I finished day one. I was in the lead. But I had a pretty up and down day. And then it comes in the practice of like trying to sleep in between day one and day two and being able to get up and now perform on a second day, which I hadn't had.
Trying to sleep.
Yeah, trying to sleep. Yeah, definitely. Because the adrenaline and the caffeine is still completely in your system. And I do a lot of replaying things in my head, which I need to get better at, and being able to just park things and like see blackness and go to sleep. But I do find it difficult to sleep in between the 2 days. Now we have strategies that we put in place and stuff, but it is difficult. But we came back on day two, and long jump was like okay, it wasn't anything special. Javelin I threw pretty well, but again, nothing special. And then the 800 meters, I went out and I ran a PB. So I finished that event and I scored 6,400 and something points.
Close to that target you had.
Close to that, yeah. But I won, and I won it by a lot. I won it by a lot. And I broke the national record, and so many people were like so buzzing with what happened. But I kind of left, and I said to my dad and Tom, like, what I just did there is a really poor representation of A, where I am, and B, where I should be. Because what I did at indoors does not equal that. And one of the big things that I said all year was that I had a great indoor season, but I want to carry it to outdoor season. I don't want to be an athlete that just like did really well for 2 weeks and then wasn't able to hold that form and show progression and show that like you can do it all year long.
Was it hard because you talked about media storm? Was it hard, Kate, or not hard, but what was the challenge around probably people telling you were fantastic? And they're brilliant achievements that you're telling us about, and your own sense of there's more.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that inside yourself from the clamour and the acknowledgement with the feeling that I'm not where I know I can be?
Yeah, I think that like it's a fine balance, because I try my best not to ever be like negative during interviews. And I did my master's in PR and communications, and maybe that's something that I've kind of learned, like how to answer questions. I think there's a time and a place to speak about how you actually completely feel. But there's also a time and a place to understand the question that you're being asked and the response that they're hoping that you'll give. So no, definitely like around that kind of time, whenever everyone was buzzing about what I had just done, I went along with it. And it was something that was more private. Again, probably like me trying to keep like the expectation down slightly, because like who wants to go into a major champs with like all this pressure, all this expectation, because I've been saying I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and then potentially not do it. Why would I do that to myself whenever I don't have to? I mean, next year I'll probably be in a little bit of a different situation because I've done it. But at that point, why would I do something that I don't need to do? And again, I had so much self-belief. I don't need everybody else telling me that I can do something. If I believe I can do it, I'll do it myself. So, yeah, sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought there on what I was even...
We were talking about just the people who are telling you you're done fantastically well, which you clearly have done, but a sense that I'm getting from you that you felt there was, even after that medal, there was, and getting close to your season's target, that there was more for you to show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like then in hindsight, looking back, like it was the perfect time for that to happen, because A, I had practice of the heptathlon, but B, I was able to come back and speak to my dad and Tom, and we were able to then figure out exactly what we needed to hone in on for the next couple of weeks, and get ready for. And it kind of like they reframed it to me and basically said, how great of a position is it that you're in where you've just broken the national record, you've won World University Games, which at the start of the year was my target, was to win World University Games. To have won it by so much and to know that there is so much more there.
Mm.
And whenever I kind of realized that, I was like, oh my goodness, like I can score what I just scored there in my sleep, because that wasn't good. That wasn't a great hit. Okay. Where like the previous year I had dreams of scoring something like that. So it again at that moment reframed our minds into thinking that a medal was a possibility at World Champs. I believed that the bronze medal was up for grabs. I gave too much respect to the Olympic champ, and I don't know what it is, Anna Hall, who I'm not sure if she's been a world champer before, but she's very respectable. She scored 7,000 points earlier in the year. And I also gave quite a lot of respect to Kat. As like I do think you have to give respect to certain people, but I'd ruled off 2 medals, and I believed that the bronze medal was open between maybe 5 or 6 of us. I thought that it would be a real scrap, and I believed that there was going to be a few girls that, like, depending on who did what,
you could be in there.
Yeah, exactly. If I pull it all out, like I could be in there. So went on training camp to Hong Kong, and training was going really, really well, and I could kind of start to sense that like the people on camp were also thinking the same, that like I probably had the best chance of winning a medal out of the team. I'd never been in that situation before, and I could definitely sense that like other people were starting to realize that, or also maybe believed that too. But camp was all like going really well. All my sessions I was executing perfectly. And then most of the group left to go into Tokyo. And I stayed on because I was at the end of the championships. So me, my dad, Tom, and my physio, Kerry, the 4 of us stayed behind. And that was an experience, going from like having the crack and going for coffees with
loads of people,
with the athletes, to then like now you're at this like this kind of lull, and like the championships have started.
It's like being at home again, nearly.
Kind of, yeah, except you're really kind of, you're not at home. You're so far away from home, and like it's gone from loud to quiet, and the sense of buzz has been taken away. And I was just raring and ready to go. I just wanted to get in and do it. And the last session that we did was a shot put session and a gym session, and the shot put session went terribly, like so bad. It was just completely all over the place, and I was blaming everybody that was around me, and it was everybody else's fault, not mine, and nobody really knew what to do or what to say to me, because I didn't realize at the time, but they were probably feeling the pressure too. Like I know I was feeling the pressure, but they're feeling too. And yeah, that was like a complete like, oh, it was really bad. One of the things I said was like, I know what's going to happen in the hurdles. I know what's going to happen in the high jump. I went through all the events, but I said I don't know what's going to happen in the shot put. It's the one event where I just feel like it's completely up in the air. And that maybe made them all be a bit like, oh God. Yeah. Oh Jesus, what are we going to do? Was
this a different version of you at that point than your coaches have seen all year?
Yeah, probably. I've never really broken down like that in front of Tom and Kerry. In front of my dad, like I've had a lot of strong words with my dad before. That's because we're close, but I've never in front of like them all like shown everyone how. Yeah, for kind of, not for no reason, but for something like that. I've never broken down like that before. I mean, they've seen me definitely break down if I compete and it doesn't go well. Like that's after competition, but never really before competition. I'm normally pretty headstrong and like know what I'm doing, but at that point, yeah. And I didn't really know why. And in hindsight, like we've had conversations with people that is completely normal, and that like a lot of the top athletes, you go into this like really like sensitive kind of, you're like hyper aware of everything and anything that's going on, and I'll remember everything that people are saying, and I'll start recalling things and putting things together, and my brain, I think like the top athletes in the world, their brains just go into this like extreme kind of like overload,
hyper vigilant almost,
completely. Yeah. Which we'd never been in that position before, so we didn't know that was going to happen, and really we didn't know how to deal with it either. and we weren't given a heads up really on how to do that, but maybe you just have to go through those sort of things to then realize how to come out of them. So anyway, we did the gym session and that was all in silence. I think everyone was scared of me, and I came back, and this was kind of in the afternoon, so it was morning time back at home, and I called my mum, like bawling, crying in my bedroom, because I was like, this is just awful. Like, people are like going to be expecting so much of me, and I know that like this is just going to be terrible. Like, I'm going to let everybody down in the shop, and I don't know what to do, and blah blah blah. And she, like, I don't really know what she said, but like sometimes it's someone just to listen to you, and like
it's a tone.
Yeah.
And it's your mum.
Yeah, it's my mum.
Yeah.
And it was like a sense of kind of like calm, and like, this isn't the end of the world, and you've put in training all year, and like you haven't lost everything. Like, if you were throwing 14 meters last week, like, it's not disappeared. You've had one bad session. And like, she puts things into perspective, and that made me feel a lot better, and that was fine. I kind of all blew over, and literally the next day then we traveled to Tokyo. And one of the main things that I wanted to do, we'd finished our training. Basically then my coaches were looking at me saying like, what do you want to do before we compete? And the one thing was, I was like, I need to do another shot session. Like, I can't go in with this like real negative attitude into the shot. So we decided we were going to do a shot session on a specific day, and we turned up or whatever. We did the other bits that we needed to do, and it came to the shot. And in Japan, they had very strict rules about when you could throw and how long you could throw for, etc. And it basically turned out that we couldn't throw when we wanted to throw, and we kind of had to hang around and wait, and we had a very short window to throw, and there was no measurements out either. So I had to just kind of go through the motions and kind of eyeball distances. And over and over again, I was asking my dad and Tom, I was like,
you could not foot off the other measuring it.
No, they wouldn't let me do that. But I was looking, I was like, is that over 14 meters? And they were like,
Okay.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, yeah, but are you sure it's over 14 meters? Or are you just like, no, it's definitely over 14 meters. And I'm like, at that moment, I had to really like try to trust them. But I tried my best to trust them. And I did. I knew, like, again, I was able to rationalize it in my head, and I knew that like I was a good shot thrower.
Was it a technical thing that had
No.
sort of broken down, or was it?
Like, the thing is with events is that like, okay, so much of it is technical and physical, but there is a mental aspect to everything that you do, and like, timing is a huge thing. And for me, like, well, I work out all the timing in my head, and sometimes that can, if just something's off ever so slightly, it just knocks everything, and then you're just not lining it up well. And mentally, just because I was probably a little bit all over the place, I was missing the timings, and then even more so, I was just really in my head.
Snowballs a bit.
Yeah. And then like, I was looking at people being like, oh, I don't know how to fix this, or I don't know, where I would normally be an athlete where I do something and I'd be like, oh, I did that wrong, or if I do this, I think that will make it better.